Hi, it's Keith. I'm just going to cover some of the very basics of the inverter. I get so many people calling me and trying to understand the very, very basics. So this is a very, very basic introduction. It's not really designed. We've gone over the really complicated stuff. So I'm just going to try and cover some very, very simple things. So I'm using multiple cameras, which is something I'm not that used to. So just bear with me. So yeah, now wow, works. Right. So this is the board. It's actually an 8 kilowatt, but you can see the actual ideas. And you see here, which is the grid connection, the generator connection, and the load connection. These connections here, I often get asked about this wiring. Don't need to worry about it. That's just the internal wiring, so it's nothing to do with what we're going to discuss. And here is the MPPTs. We've got two MPPTs, and in fact, each one has got 2 channels. So you can put 4 strings onto the inverter. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'll just move this away, and I've done a very simple drawing again. So here we go. Very simple. It's a bidirectional inverter. So you wire to your grid. So normal wiring, you wire to the grid, and the grid connection will connect to one of the MCBs, main circuit breakers, here on your fuse board, and of course onto the neutral connection. So it's simple connection straight here. Of course, you've got to add your grounding onto it as well. Your power comes from your consumer unit, which is maybe your RCD on the consumer unit, through the watt meter. And before here, we add the CT coil. This is really important. This length of the CT coil can't be too long. It's a thing. If you're going to extend it, use the same type of cable. This other connection here, the load, this is the UPS. So this is your essential loads. This is the load that would, if you have a power outage, load shedding, whatever, this will continue. But you don't want to put too heavy on this, because obviously it's going to flatten your battery. So all your heavy stuff will just be connected to your consumer unit normal way, and the power will flow from the solar, and it'll flow into the solar, and it'll flow back this way, provided set it here. And then you can choose if you want to export or not export. On one of the screens, there is a setting, and basically it allows a small, because some of these meters are prepaid meters, and it will allow a small amount of power, very small, maybe 20 watts or maybe 100 watts to flow from here. So there's a very small amount of power, but most of the power will flow this way, and it will come here, and it will go through your various load, your grid. It is bidirectional. So therefore, if power is required to charge the battery from the AC, then the whole thing reverses and the power goes that way. So it goes in both ways. And you can see by touching the bar chart on the inverter exactly which way it's going. So remember, simplest connection, just connect the grid connection to MCB and the CT coil. You must use the CT coil, otherwise it won't work. If this is a generator, you've still got to have a CT coil. You always have to have a CT coil, because that controls the export. The load is your essential loads, your essential. So you must split it between essential, and here you will have another consumer unit here. So which will be your lighting, your security systems, and various other things. So you've got to keep both absolutely separate. And that's it. I'm just trying to give a very basic understanding. So you say, this is actually the board out of it. You can see here, which is your connection here, which is, it says your limiter, and here is where's my limiter. Okay, and this is where your CT coils. Check your polarity, make sure it's the right way around. It is all covered in the manual, but your very first wiring, grid, MCB, if you've got some protection devices, fine, isolators, use all of that. I'm not drawing that. And that goes onto an MCB, and that's bi-directional. And the solar will center there. Make sure you put your CT coil on. You must connect, and that's all covered in the manual. That's a very simple how it works. The inverter goes both ways. So hope this video is useful. It's a very simple introduction. So thanks for watching.